name is Andy, and I work on the social media team here at Bungie, and today we're thrilled to get to welcome all of you into a very special stream, talking a little bit about what's to come with Act 1 of episode Revenant, launching just next week on October 8th, and also we're going to go ahead and take a little bit more of a look further down the road and talk a little bit more about Codename Frontiers. But worry not, just like always, you don't have to listen to just me tell you all about it. We have some amazing folks from the Bungie development team here to go ahead and talk through it as well, and I say there's no time like the present. Let's introduce our cast of characters so we can go ahead and dive on in, starting with someone that you may know if you've tuned into our Into the Light streams in the past, the one and only Jerome Viernich, senior narrative designer here at Bungie. Jerome, how's it going?
It's great. I'm glad to be here. How are you?
Doing well, thank you, and welcome back again. For the folks that may not have seen you on this show before or had a chance to go ahead and check out the Into the Light streams, can you tell us just a little bit about who you are and what you do here at Bungie?
Sure. I'm a writer on our fantastic writing team, so that means dialogue, tending to the garden that is our lore, and doing UI UX strings.
The fun stuff. So you're the blank space filler.
Oh, now
That's right. That's right. Press X. That's me.
Okay, I hold down E personally, but we can discuss that
That's
later.
not my department.
That's all right. You know, we're cross-play friendly. It's okay. And then also sitting just next to him, someone who is joining us now in front of the camera, previously a member of our behind-the-scenes fire team who does so much of our heavy lifting, the one and only Clayton Kisko, staff designer here at Bungie. Clayton, welcome.
Thanks for having me. How you doing?
Doing well, thank you. And hey, second verse, same as the first. Can you tell the folks at home a little bit about who you are and what you do here at Bungie?
Yeah, so I'm a staff designer here, and I work primarily within the activities department. So I am in charge of building the skeleton and framework of the activity, developing the encounters and the boss fights as well, and building that amazing roller coaster that you tend to go on as a
We've
player.
been writing it for a while. Thank you very much for all your hard work. Given that today's Tuesday and reset day, I have plenty to dive into, thanks to you and yours. So thank you a ton, Clayton.
Yeah.
And sitting just next to him, someone that needs no introduction, but will still risk it anyway, just to make sure everyone's all caught up. The one and only the sandbox craft lead here at Bungie, the one and only Mr. Chris Proctor. Chris, how's it going?
Good, thanks, Andy.
So anyone who may not have seen you on the Into the Light streams in the past or heard you in podcasts around the community, can you tell us just a little bit about who you are and what you do here?
So I'm Chris Proctor, Sandbox Craft Lead on Destiny 2 here at Bungie. I work with the rest of the Sandbox team and Destiny leadership, other teams, to make sure that we're always hitting that gameplay quality bar.
The drops is probably like an emblem.
I occasionally also make a few things for the game.
Yep, it's not an easy job, but we thank you all for doing it. And also, I want to note, chat's calling you out immediately. You're getting a lot of love already. So thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. Now, we're going to go ahead and dive into episode Revenant, which again is launching just
Someone in the chat says, show us Pete's card collection.
Jerome, we're on the verge now in the last week of completing episode Echoes. Can you tell us a little
Man
bit
Bun
about the story
Crow.
that got us to where we are now?
Sure, absolutely. Well, let's start with the death of the witness, who
that
we
guy.
thoroughly destroyed.
Absolutely.
And his giant, smoky, billowing head dissipated into a mist of darkness, which then coalesced with the Traveler's Light.
Yeah.
Right? Crystallizing into the Echoes, which fell into the Soul System. One of those fell, of course, to Maya Sundaresh, which we know from episode 1.
Yeah.
And it fundamentally changed how the Vex saw themselves. And now we're going to get the same treatment with the Scorn, because one of the Echoes will be falling to Fikrul, leader of the undead Elixni army. And similarly, that Echo is going to prompt the Scorn to evolve, to see themselves in a new way, and to fundamentally change what they are. And I won't spoil anything. I'll let players discover that for themselves. But suffice it to say, Fikrul is evolving his army, he's growing his army, and in order to build Scorn armies, you need a bunch of corpses.
Interesting.
Which is not necessarily in the best interest of the Elixni. So we will be teaming up with Mithrax.
Speaking of Fikrul, we see him right here as well now. We're taking a look at the new art for episode Revenant as well. So Fikrul's gotten a bit of a glow up, I think.
Absolutely. This whole episode is metal.
He's big.
I think that shows it right there. That accurately depicts the tone of the season.
Yeah. It's not messing around. I will say, we won't watch the trailer today, but when folks see the trailer, you're right. Metal is the right word to use.
So much slaying.
Serious.
It's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
But the Elixni, of course, want to prevent this, and so we'll be teaming up with Mithrax, the Kell of House Light, and his daughter, Ido, the adorable Ido.
Must be protected at all costs.
Absolutely.
Thoroughly, yeah.
And she will be bringing her expertise in herbology and ancient Elixni lore to help us craft tonics, to imbue us with the power that we need to battle this evolving Scorn army.
Interesting. That is, thank you, by the way, for not only, now you've narrative directed us into our segue as well, so thank you very much. Narrative design as well. And so I think we should go ahead and dive into a little bit of gameplay. Starting over here with you, Clayton. So we just heard a little bit about some new tonics and everything. Can you tell us a little bit about where we are and what we're going to be doing here? This is the new apothecary, I believe?
That's right. So we're in the apothecary space, and Jerome was just mentioning the tonics and potions that we'll be crafting. They come in 2 flavors. They come in combat flavors, and they come in reward flavors.
Okay.
The combat flavors are going to enhance, or rather boost your artifact perks, specific ones.
Yeah.
Higher rarities of these tonics will boost multiple artifact perks, which is really great.
Okay. Yeah.
And then on the reward side, we wanted to create a new or novel way to chase your gear and your weapons that you love.
Yeah.
And we took a lot of inspiration from the success of Into the Light, where players got to attune to specific weapons. And so with your reward tonics, you'll be able to attune to specific weapons within the season.
Very nice.
They're not craftable in this season, which is important to note, but you will be able to target them, and they'll have enhanced perks.
Got it. Okay. So you'll be able to go ahead and chase down that god roll you're looking so desperately for with the help of this. But also, you know, for the build crafters out there, they're going to have even more to dive into than maybe just the episode artifact and everything. These are going to go ahead and help just boost a lot of those traits, I guess, yeah?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So build crafters, make sure your appetites are whetted and ready. There's going to be plenty of stuff for you to go ahead and dive into. But we're going to go ahead also and dive into some of the meat and potatoes of today's stream, proverbially speaking. As we're on our way over to Onslaught, Clayton, I just want to go ahead and also start there. Onslaught's getting kind of a new revamp this episode as well. You guys have left proverbially very few, if any, stones untouched this time around.
Correct. Yeah. And so, you know, we heard players' feedback. They wanted to see us invest in Onslaught. We are coming out with a brand new Onslaught called Onslaught Salvation.
Yeah.
We are going to have 3 maps that you'll be in there. You will have some new defenses. We'll have enemy factions that will be fighting into the theme of this episode. We'll have the Scorn. We'll have the Dark Cabal.
That's right.
A bunch of other new stuff that we can get into.
Excellent. Yeah, we'll be diving into that here briefly. You can see our fire team is now on their way. While we're on the way over as well, I heard a brief mention of our friends in the Shadow Legion as well. Can you tell us what the Shadow Legion is doing here and why they might be in league with Fickrel, Jerome?
The Shadow Legion are bumming. They are in utter disarray. Their leader has been slain, and they are grasping to anyone who can keep
I don't know if it's
them
like menagerie.
in power.
Yeah.
And Fickrel holds the most powerful artifact around now.
Got it.
So they will be doing his bidding, though it will be a tenuous alliance.
They're going with Fickrel's Riz just for right now, but that may not be the case later on.
That's right. We will do our best to stomp that out.
Thank you. All right, fair enough. Much appreciated. All right, so now we are here. We're in Onslaught, and we're on Widow's Court.
Yeah.
Look at that
So
wayframe.
players will recognize this map, and they'll also recognize some of the changes that we've done to accommodate for the slaying, the amounts of slaying that is necessary for an Onslaught activity.
Yeah, a quick refresher for the folks at home that may not.
That's an exotic. Vestigial alchemy.
10-level mode and the 50-level mode, isn't that correct?
Right. So Onslaught Salvation will also be coming with the.
It's not a wayframe. It's
3
just a normal
modes that
geo.
had in the past, which is the playlist
Primary.
10-wave mode, the normal 50-wave mode,
Overload grenade launcher.
50-wave mode. And the new thing about Onslaught Salvation, one of the new things, is that it will not be power fixed like it was prior in Into the Light.
Oh, right.
Power enabled, so your armor and your weapons will matter even more.
Yeah.
It will be at the start more difficult, but you can, through getting better, more power and grinding that artifact level, you'll be able to kind of outweigh that difficulty. Yeah. And you'll also be able to
anti-barrier shotgun.
Yeah, I was going to say we were just looking at a turret that maybe Guardians haven't seen since their days on the moon in D1.
Yeah.
Can you tell us what's going on? We got some new defenses, obviously.
We have some new defenses. So Ashley Baker is one of the
rapid impacts.
She's on the fire team right now, and she helps us.
What is all that? Those orbs are looking just like the orbs you get from Lumina.
So it is kind of a standard rival turret at first, but by upgrade 3, it's going to have more health, it's going to be dealing more damage, but it's also going to have scorching rounds come out of it.
Okay.
And what the cool thing about that is that if you have build crafting with fragments or what have you,
Oh.
scorching,
Yeah.
that will play off that if you're the rider.
Very nice.
Turret,
Okay.
yeah.
So you can go ahead and really scorch everyone. To
Is that a
as much as
d-
Clumps of
possible.
enemies,
Yeah.
those annoying demolitionists that come in front of
Oh,
you. and
reconstruction?
scare the hell out of you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they do,
shadow.
that was my words. Okay, they do scare that.
Yeah.
All right. So in the subject or in the topic of new defenses, so we're bringing back the turret from yesterdecade of Destiny, but also there's some other ones available as well. Can you tell us a little bit about maybe some new defenses that are on the way?
Yes, so the other one that we have is the airstrike,
Yes.
which will have 3 cannons when you purchase it, or upgrade it. They'll be replenished there. And what that allows you to do is essentially mark anywhere on
Pick up an
the ground,
airstrike laser.
and when an enemy or enemies run over it, a giant beam, it will come down from the sky.
It's
and
the
obliterate
Hammer
your
of
enemies.
Dawn.
And keep a little bit of the secret for higher upgrades.
From Gears of War.
That's fair, that's
everything
fair.
here,
You
but
can
it's a
use
really
the
nice
Hammer of
upgrade.
Dawn.
We'll just go ahead and put that.
There you go.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And actually, so just to double check as well, with the airstrikes, it's not just you plant it and it fires. It actually has to wait for someone to kind of trigger that. I
Waits
guess?
for someone to come over, yeah.
Very nice, okay.
Much like the tripwire, which
Yeah.
we are also updating
Yeah.
for Onslaught Salvation. We've heard the feedback about the tripwires, and
Mm-hmm.
we want to bring their value up a little bit more. So now they're going to be exploding with stasis slow fields.
Yeah.
And on
that
higher
Swarm of
upgrades,
the
they're
Raven
creating
or a
stasis
knockoff
crystals for you to play off of if you have a stasis build,
Yeah.
stasis weapon. And then I'm happy to share that those updates
Looks
will
like
also
Swarm of the
be
Raven.
available in the original Onslaught as well.
Very nice. Okay, so all the updates that are happening to the defenses that are available in Onslaught Salvation will be available in the traditional Onslaught mode as well.
Just the tripwires, yeah.
Very exciting. Okay, nice. Good to see.
Yeah.
While we're on the topic of stasis and obviously looking at our tools for destruction, Chris, I'd be remiss if I didn't try and bring up the new breach loading grenade launcher that our fire team here is getting a lot of use out of. There's obviously a decent chunk of new weapons arriving with Revenant, but let's start here. This is the new seasonal, or pardon me, episodic exotic.
Yeah, this would be the Season Pass exotic.
Yeah.
It's the Alephamin Stasis Primary Ammo Grenade Launcher.
Yeah,
So we've only had one primary ammo grenade launcher before, which is Fighting Lion,
fighting line.
which is
Beloved.
getting a buff this season as well, actually. It'll
That's right. Yeah.
make enemies volatile when it hits them, so like serious buildcrafting there, particularly
Yeah.
in PvE. But anyway,
I cannot wait.
so this is a bit different in that it's also a projectiles travel in a straight line, so like mountaintop.
Yeah.
Hits pretty hard. But the exotic part of it is that as you defeat enemies, you will gather these remnants, which will fill up the exotic bar, which you can see in the HUD when people aren't dead.
Yeah. It's the shade.
Yes.
Oh, they're an expert.
No, that's true. Yeah, we should note for the Guardians at home, this is an expert mode, so they're
it is
taking
a
the hard
tough
way,
activity.
obviously.
But yeah, so when the bar reaches 50%, you can special reload, and your next shot will launch a special ammo brick for you and your allies to pick up.
Very nice.
And when you reach 100, you can special reload and launch heavy ammo. So this lets you really go in on a new type of support role, which
Yeah.
is ammo
Interesting.
support, which we haven't really seen in the game.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think on my side, I really just spend a lot of the time getting like the Seeker and Finder mods on my helmet. Seems like a nice additional way to go.
You
ahead
can
and
turn
make
into
some really
special and then heavy ammo.
The fuel, pardon me, of the heavy ammo burners like myself who have been addicted to microcosms.
Look at the turrets.
So,
You can
Essentially,
hop
you
in the
could have one
turret.
person in the fire team go all in on ammo generation, and
Yeah.
the other folks build
Very
something else.
also, so Clayton, when it comes to the other stuff that's arriving with Onslaught Salvation, are there any new things we're looking forward to? I know that we're obviously fighting the evolved
Turned into
Scorn, but are there any
special.
new bosses or anything people can look forward to?
Right. So the Fickrel Scorn are also going to be coming out with what we're calling.
There's
the
no
Revenant
reconstruction
Baron.
on that
And
shotgun
thing
yet.
is Scary, and you'll see it on wave 6 here in a second when.
Yeah,
the
16,
players
but if
are
it is a
trying to go into,
two-burst,
like a Revenant nest,
then it's like having
go
8
to
shots.
Save the Elixir from being captured.
Yeah.
These Revenant Barons, they
Yeah.
stalk the area, and when you kill them, they will create a Revenant totem which flies in a random direction,
Yeah.
leaving a trail so you can kind of like stalk it, find it.
Yeah.
You have to kill it before it would respawn the Revenant Baron.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So there's some hide and seek gameplay there. Yeah, and so we also have for the rewards side, starting on wave 30, set 3, players will have a small chance to get a fully masterwork double perked episodic weapon.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, and on expert, like we're playing,
Yeah.
if you remember the bonus chest on harder difficulties will show up. So if you're playing on expert, you have 2 chances.
Okay, all right. So really make sure you're pushing through those final levels. Try and hit that ceiling of level 50 so you can really facilitate the loot grind as much as you can.
100%.
Something we mentioned recently in one of our Dev Insight logs as well are Banes. which are going to be making an appearance here in Onslaught. Can you tell us a little bit about that as well?
Yeah, so we'll be, with the expert mode only, we'll be having Banes throughout the activity, and we'll also be adding mods. So it's really nice to have them show up because they add another layer of replayability into expert. You don't know if you're going to get the gaseous one where you're, like, you got a dot on you, or if you have to break line of sight, but it adds a fun variability within the gameplay, so every wave feels
I like that shot, yeah.
I just wanted to point out here,
please.
you'll notice two things. First off, the fire team is tracking that Revenant Baron, just like you said.
Yeah.
And also freeing captured Elixni. And as to why people want to keep Elixni captives alive, I'll save that for the players to discover.
Sounds devious.
The other thing is that you'll see Crow chiming in a lot. He's features prominently in the season.
Right,
Because he is inadvertently, of course, responsible.
At least he gets
for creating
precision
controls, so
instrument.
it's his responsibility.
If
as
he
the
gets like
contraband
precision
to,
instrument and
rectify his old problem.
Interesting. Even though
rewind
hey, man,
rounds.
that was Ultron. That wasn't me. He's going to step up and take responsibility for that.
Absolutely.
Old Fickrel's fickle out there. Even to that same end, too, we're going to be hanging out with Crow, with Ido, and with Mithrax, obviously, at the main kind of part of the story. They're going to be the ones that we're going to be hanging out with the most, you'd say? Or
there will be some other Elixni, some venerable old school Elixni that poke their heads in that you'll see some drama with. I won't say any more than that.
Fair.
But it will be in everyone's interest to see Fickrel go down here.
okay, got it. A little bit of enemy, my enemy. In this case, they're all our enemy.
That's right.
Fair enough. Actually, really quickly, Clayton, I know we kind of touched on several different subjects here between the different defenses, different enemies, the different kind of structural opportunities that Onslaught, Salvation.
I can see it being
sitting
vessel
down with the team,
weapon.
sort of looking at this new.
Doesn't really
threat
interest
on
me
this activity.
though.
Like, did you guys take any big?
The heavy
bounds and stuff?
GL.
Like, we want to.
I mean, maybe. Only thing so far is
We
the stasis
wanted to
jail.
build and evolve and just do more.
We don't really need
It's a
another
metal episode.
precision
We wanted to
slug.
Let's metal it up.
much less being a burst.
Things like the
But
turret, things like the Revenant Baron, we really want to play into the themes of this, like, kind of haunting, spooky episode.
Yeah.
And you're seeing
it probably depends on whether or not the damage of both shots are split or doubled.
Yeah.
As well. Yeah.
As well.
One thing I forgot to mention too is we are updating the moth yards from the original Onslaught.
Oh, really?
We've heard feedback from there. It's taking a little bit longer. We want to bring our goal is to bring that in line with the rest of the maps of the original Onslaught. So we're making some updates there to get that to go.
Very exciting. So reasons obviously to dive into all versions of Onslaught as we go ahead and move into Revenant.
Yeah.
Very exciting. Actually, and while we're here out here, slaying out as best as we can against this new undead army, Chris, we're going to have obviously a slew of new episodic weapons arriving this time.
Yeah.
I know we've kind of spoken about this this breech loading grenade launcher. Are there any other notable ones that you're most interested in, or most excited rather, I should say, in bringing back?
Yeah, there are a few weapons that I'm going to personally be chasing rolls on. I'm particularly fond of the new double fire stasis grenade launcher.
Yes.
Only the third double fire in the game, and the other two are energy slot.
Yeah.
So you'll be able to run this in your kinetic slot. It's got
Okay,
the
so we're getting
Endless
a-
arsenal, which is like directly targeted at damage rotations. So whenever you do damage with the other two weapons, the weapon reloads.
Yeah.
So you can just cycle between your weapons, get it back, and it also has chill clip, which on a double fire is particularly cool.
That's what I said,
like
deep.
Interesting.
twice or 4 times.
Yeah.
There's also some cool synergies with the new perks on some of the other weapons. So the hand cannon can run the new perk Rhyme Stealer, which every time you shatter a stasis crystal or a frozen enemy will grant you frost armor, which is the new verb we introduced recently.
Right.
And that can also roll with Headstone, which will generate stasis crystals.
Yeah.
So you've got this like self-contained loop there.
Yeah.
We already got enough things
Submachine
going. You
gun
don't need
is
that.
Arc Precision, and that's got the new perk. Shoot, what is the name of that?
My memory's failing me as well.
Anyway, it ties back into Jolt, right? Like the
Right, thank you.
Vault Shot is great, but it requires a reload on your weapon after a kill.
Yeah.
This one's triggered on sustained damage, so
That's right.
you'll jolt the target, and then the perk I'm going for in the other column is Loose Change, which every time you apply a debuff gives you a reload speed buff. So you'll be constantly having that loop cycle.
Yeah. And also, so we're going to look at the new artifact here in a little bit once we go ahead and move through this.
It'll be
final
busting
wave.
on
We're also part of
Warlocks.
this right now,
Warlocks
but there's also,
live.
it's been featured a little bit in some art about Destiny's 10th anniversary, an exotic
Stasis.
of yesteryear, we'd say, with For All the Guardians who have been sticking around for a while, rather. Icebreaker is returning.
Yeah, Icebreaker is coming back. It's something that we've been holding off on doing just because the ammo economy issues that are introduced in Destiny 1 were pretty dire.
Yeah.
But we've got a version here which we think lets you get back into that fantasy of just like always having uptime on the weapon without letting you just hang back and like plink away at enemies from range, which we never like. So the way it works is assists and final blows with other weapons will just generate ammo for Icebreaker.
Got it.
It's got like a 10-round magazine, which is also...
So it's basically what we said it would be. Okay.
So the play is that in between boss damage phases or something, you and your team slay out, and as long as you're getting assists or kills, you'll come back in fully loaded.
Got it. Yeah.
And in Destiny 1, there wasn't actually any ice to break, right? So this time, we actually have a bunch of ice that you can break. I won't go into detail because we've got limited time. But
fair enough. Okay.
It ties deeply into
this stasis episode will certainly be giving people a lot of reasons to break the proverbial ice by the sounds of it. No, that's very exciting to check out. Now, while we're still here, let's go ahead and check out the new artifact that's going to be arriving. We love getting a chance to show all of you folks this early, so you can go ahead and start your build crafting. But Chris, you know, I know obviously last time around, if I had to kind of paint it with a meta, I'd say rather it'd be very focused on sniper rifles, solar. If there was a similar theme for this particular artifact, what would it be?
One with the
Very
frost.
hard into stasis. Like touches all of the stasis verbs.
Killing breeze. Rapid flipping blows. Dark ether.
Here. We're also adding a bunch of
Feel the Revenant.
perks.
Dealing damage with grenade launchers increases the
we've got,
reload speed of grenade
grenade
launchers.
launchers, which is great, like tagging those like super deadly
Overload, breach
champions.
loaded grenade launcher.
Also bringing back a variant of like everyone's favorite grenade launcher artifact perk, Breach and Clear.
Oh yeah.
Concussive reload.
And then when you boost it, you can get the second part of that old perk. We were saying earlier, you can boost artifact perks with the potion system.
That's right. Yeah. Good. I also will admit I'm very selfishly excited to see anti-barrier scout rifle back. It's been so long.
Anti-barrier.
I've missed
Crystalline
it. I'm going to
converter.
pretend like that's just for me for my benefit today.
We're trying something a bit different with this artifact as well. In that, so
Rapid fire blows against
first
weakened
column is
combatants
all,
grant you devour.
Champion mods, and the final column is all of the pinnacle ones, like the capstones for your artifact build.
Right.
Very bloodline, baby.
Columns 2, 3, and 4 are roughly equivalent in power, which will let you mix and match them more freely instead of feeling like you have to like go for the top tier ones. They're all usable in builds.
It's less of a linear escalation and more of just a mix and match in a lot of ways. Very exciting. Okay. So there'll be plenty of opportunities for players to go ahead and amplify their builds, go ahead and really lean into one play style. If, again, you're like
Severed
grenade launchers, this feels like a remarkably great season to be doing that.
Conductive cosmic crystal.
Thank you for sharing that with us. But I believe that actually wraps us up for this particular segment.
He didn't even show the rest of them.
There's also a couple more things that I wanted to go ahead and tease for the arrival of Act 1.
He didn't even show all of
For
them.
starters, an old favorite strike is going to be making its return. The inverted spire is returning. But Clayton, it's not coming back exactly as people remember it.
Was it gone?
Nope. We're taking an approach and adjusting all the
I
encounters.
didn't know Inverted Spire was gone.
Than what you're used to.
True. I can confirm. My compatriot on the social media team, Mitch, showed me through it a little bit. The only thing I'll spoil is if you like death lasers, you're going to have a great time out there. And then in addition to that, there's one more thing we wanted to add in. Arriving with Act 2, mind you, of Revenant, and I'm going to read this to make sure I get it right, inspired from a fan favorite activity from Destiny's past. We're going to go ahead and bring back an activity, but we're not going to tell you anything outside of that. So chat, speculate, let us know what you think. Go ahead and shout us out on Twitter or wherever it is you like to hang out online. With that, I think we're going to go ahead and ready pardon me, for the next segment. But in the meantime, gentlemen, thank you so much for taking the time to join us.
Could be SRL.
Of what's arriving with Revenant. We appreciate your time so much today.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having us.
It takes a lot to make me look good, so thank you guys for stepping up here and helping out. I appreciate it. Now, as we transition into our next stage, we've got what we've called in my notes the cool stuff segment, and I think it lives up to that. So we'll go ahead and show you a little bit more of what's
more
arriving
skimmers
with Revenant, including what you're seeing here on your screen right now. This is the second earnable skimmer that's going to be arriving in Destiny 2. The aptly named, we'll wait for it to highlight, the Zerf board. I was so glad that was the name that stuck. As you can see, it features some very unique 9 styling, inspired by Xur himself. Both top and bottom are very arted up. The top's obviously a little bit more visible here, but if you do a sweet front flip or back flip, if you're capable of it, you can go ahead and see all sides of it. Notably, this is going to be earnable. So if you go ahead and start saving up those strange coins now, it's going to cost you 97 of them. So if you're like me and spend your weekends spending all those extra strange coins at 0, go ahead and get more rolls on your exotic class item. Maybe save up for a week or 2. Also, because I work here, I've started saving up already, spoiler alert. But the Zerf board will be available with the arrival of Revenant. So make sure and go ahead and grab the first earnable skimmer since the Guardian Games. In addition to that, we obviously have mentioned very recently that we're going to be having a new dungeon arriving with Revenant, and as a part of this, we're going to be doing a dungeon race in cooperation with our friends over at Twitch Rivals. We've put the sign-up link out there. It's available on our social media channels or in the TWID, or if you prefer your URL's phonetic, it's bung.ie/Twitch Rivals. You can go ahead and head out there, sign up with your fire team, and make sure that you're ready to go ahead and take on this new challenge, which will again also provide some additional chances for Bungie rewards. You can see here on screen, we've got a look at the hoodie that will be earnable along with the bracelet. But perhaps what's most interesting about the hoodie is that as a part of the dungeon race, if you're one of the top 3 teams to go ahead and cross that proverbial finish line, then we'll be able to ship out a special embroidered version with your gamer tag on it as well. So make sure and go ahead and dive on in and prepare to try and cross that finish line first.
Do they still have to pay for it?
We're going to take one quick look. Festival of the Lost is going to be arriving with Act 1 of Revenant as well, and if you all remember, you took a chance to vote on some armor sets for yourselves. So Hunters up first. You can see here we've got the Evil Wizard set. I myself am very looking forward to adding this to my collection. The Evil Gothic set is just going to only dial up more and more. Up next, our Friendly Neighborhood Warlocks. You've got this to look forward to, including what I think we affectionately refer to as probably the coolest pants we've all ever seen over here at Bungie. And breaking out from the crowd, the Good Wizards this time around. Titans, you went ahead and voted for it this way. You're going to have the chance to go ahead and add this into your arsenal as well. So make sure that you're prepared to go ahead and dive on into Festival of the Lost and grab this stuff once it's available. And I'm going to be doing that. So maybe I'm just projecting. But either way, make sure and get ready to go ahead and update.
I gotta pay even if I get first place. Come on.
But now we get to move on to our second segment of the show, where we're going to go ahead and talk a little bit more about what's further on down the road. So we've talked about what's just around the corner. Let's look forward to Frontiers. And here to help me discuss that topic today as well, rather, are these 2 fine individuals to my left, which you've met at some point or another. But again, we'll make sure and
she was in the last
there in the crowd.
dev stream.
We'll start with you first, Allison. Allison, how's it going?
It's going so good. I'm bright-eyed and bushy-tailed.
We're up so early. I'm doing well, thank you so much.
Good.
Allison, obviously narrative director here on Destiny at Bungie. Can you tell anyone who may not have seen you in a Vidoc or one of our past streams a little bit more about yourself and what you do?
Sure. So I'm the narrative director for D2. It is me and my team's job to tell stories. It's our job to take care of our characters, of our arcs. We make you laugh. We make you cry. We make you have feelings that you normally don't have to have in your usual day-to-day life.
I was raised not to feel feelings, so it's a very upsetting experience when I do.
Feelings are distressing. I understand. We also get to plan future things, planning ahead for the arcs to come.
Yes.
And the saga
to come. I know, the whole new saga. We'll have a little bit to dive into as well today. I know, I'm so
I
excited.
got my Revenant
also sitting next to
Echo.
her, Robbie Stevens, assistant game director here at Bungie, a man that I've not had a chance to interview since back in my Mixer days. But if you've tuned into these Bungie streams in the past, you've seen him as well. Robbie, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Andy. And I think you've grown a lot since those days.
Thank you. It's been so long, right? Yeah. My badge changed and everything. For the folks that may not know you or may not know what a game director does, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, so one of the main things I do as assistant game director for Destiny 2 is I work on the creative direction and vision for where we're going with Destiny coming up in the future with Codename Frontiers. So I get to work with our game director, Tyson Green, and Allison Lurs, our narrative director, and a bunch of our other creative leaders on how we shape the future of Destiny to come.
Very exciting, which we are going to be diving into now. I know we've obviously released some blogs about the Codename Frontier stuff already. If you've been out on Bungie.net reading the Dev Insight blogs, there's been a good amount to dive into. But our friends over on the community team as well have been helping us kind of, read more into what the audience feedback has been and what the players are saying. And so we've had obviously some topics come up that I think we should just go ahead and dive on into.
Let's party.
Absolutely. Okay, that's the right attitude. Let's party at this early in the morning. Always the answer I want to hear. So Robbie, we'll go ahead and start with you. Sure. One of the things we said is that these expansions are going to be medium-sized. Can you help us understand a little bit more about what that means?
Yeah, definitely. So expansions are changing going forward with Codename Frontiers. And so our philosophy behind this is moving from one really big, all-consuming tentpole moment that kind of takes all the oxygen in the room at one point in the year, to 2 what we consider big tentpole moments happening in each year. And so those tentpole moments coming twice a year now are going to bring with them fresh content and new stories that are going to move the world of Destiny forward. And to answer your question directly, the way we're kind of looking at the size of these is similar to like Rise of Iron from Destiny.
They actually said Rise of Iron. What the?
As compared to the past.
Yeah.
And so, you know,
I thought they just
the reason
never
we're
wanted
talking
to
about this
remember
little
that
shape of the
game
box
anymore.
here, that we're filling is that what comes with it is like each expansion is going to have its own unique version of a campaign and post-game experience that you can dive really deep into beyond the initial playthrough, similar to how things like the Dreaming City or the Pale Heart from the Final Shape had worked, where those beyond those initial campaign experiences, there's like further things to explore and secrets to uncover. And so making our expansions unique and deeply replayable is a big goal for us, in large part to support all the new gear and the new tiering of gear that we're putting into the game, right? And so it's one about so like, you know, each of these expansions, again, they're going to tell a really compelling story as part of our next saga. But I really want to stress that they're also going to be unique experiences, unique campaigns and post games.
Yeah, I know that's something like, you know, I've kind of overheard some of the conversations where when it comes to these expansions as well, you know, obviously the corollary we're using today is Rise of Iron, but like these are going to be brand new experiences, things that we just like haven't released before in the past.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that as well? Or
yeah, definitely. And so for Codename Apollo specifically, the first expansion coming up with Frontiers, you're going to journey to a Metroidvania-inspired destination, right? That's our guiding light for how we're creating this new location. And so this new destination is going to feature a non-linear campaign that puts you know, in the driver's seat of exploring its world and its story. So this is very different from the past, where you're kind of following a very linear mission structure or line. That's very simple in many ways. And Allison actually recently talked a bunch about this in a blog post.
So when we made the decision to lean into that Metroidvania structure, we knew that the narrative structure had to match, like had to complement that structure as well. And so the way that we're going to treat non-linearity in Codename Apollo is when you arrive at our destination, which is a new destination, you'll be able to decide if you want to go to region D or region C, or maybe you want to go check out B, because that's going to be where you get the ability that allows you to access region A, so you can talk to that character that you really like. We really want that sense of the player being in the driver's seat, of being able to decide where and how they want to explore and discover the secrets that we have in the world. And whichever of those different choices that you make doesn't negate the others. We want you to explore every crevice inside of the experience. And to help support that, we've structured our story in a complementary way. So we'll have the normal kinds of like activity dialogue that you normally experience in a campaign, but there's also between 25 and 30 different threads of stories that you can discover and chain together after you complete an activity. There's so much richness to discover that we're creating.
You see that little thread of that shining rock somewhere, you can really just afford to pull on it and just dive in by the sound
Absolutely, that's what we want you to do.
Okay, that's awesome. So actually, let's go ahead and stay on the topic of story here for just a second as well.
I wouldn't even say open world.
There's been some conversations about the future of narrative Destiny, which has obviously been so central to the experience, so core to our characters and our stories. There's been some concern that maybe the new structure might not afford the opportunity for as much story in the past. Can you tell us a little bit about what you guys are planning and what that means?
That would be news to me if it suddenly vanished. I like what
Allison,
I do.
please stay.
Please don't let go. Yeah, exactly.
Is this how we find out?
No, story is Destiny. Like what makes Destiny Destiny is that beating heart of story at its core. That's not going anywhere. The thing that this new structure allows us comes in two parts for story. Like part one is pacing. With these 2 tentpole beats a year, the feeling that the world is changing and growing and moving is going to come much quicker now, which means that we can move the plot along at a much quicker pace than we used to. Part 2 is focus. Because these are much more focused releases, we don't have to worry about padding the sides with a bunch of extra stuff to kind of fill in the space. Like, nope, we are zeroing in on exactly what each of these releases is trying to communicate. And so that means we're going to tell a more focused story and with pacing that keeps up with what fans want.
Yeah, I mean, it's also too, it's interesting because, obviously the narrative is one big part, the story you're telling, the words on the page, but another part of it, given that we have the unique opportunity with a medium like video games, is how players interact with it. We've seen some comments online and some notable conversations about, go talk to vendor X, head over to the holodeck and say hello to this other person, go back to vendor X and shake their hand one more time. Can you tell us a little bit about that structure, what you guys are planning on?
Yeah, it drives us bonkers too. Yeah. No, we believe that everything should be questioned, right? Like we should be questioning that structure and we should be reinvestigating it. And starting with Revenant and especially when we get to Apollo, we're going to be deliberately shaking it up. By the time we get to Apollo, that loop, that pattern is more or less gone. We're shaking things up a lot.
Yeah, I mean, Allison spoke to it earlier, but all those threads that you're pulling on, right? Like these are characters out in the world that you're exploring and discovering, right, as part of your journey here. And so it's not you going to the same location where you expect to see someone delivering a piece of information to you between, specific missions. It is like you exploring the world, finding these people, pulling on all these different threads in order to discover things within this weird and wonderful place.
Exactly. The feedback is loud and clear. We want to keep the player out in the world, out and exploring, and get information to them for a change. So, we're listening.
And also, I mean, I will say, Allison, you didn't arrive empty-handed. You've got some cool concept art to share with us as well.
I brought some goodies.
Okay.
I brought some presents.
Thank you.
I brought some birthday presents. Happy birthday.
Yeah,
Happy birthday,
everyone who's born on
Looking
October
at concept art is always a joy.
Exactly.
It's a good way to go about it. It's better than wrapping paper covering a PlayStation. I don't know.
It's true. It's true.
Let's go ahead and take a look. So this is, we've got up on screen kind of one of our first pieces of concept art from the future. Can you tell us a little bit about what we're looking at here?
No, I can't. On purpose. What I can tell you is that this is some concept art of our new destination, which, like I said, is a new place that we haven't been to before, which means that these people that you're seeing are people that we haven't met yet. We're going to learn a lot more about them, and I love this piece because the longer that you look at it, same with some of the other art that we've shared so far, the more you start to see things that are kind of familiar all the way out at this new location.
Yeah, it's like
so lots of fun things to discover.
What's the symbol on that banner? Is this a seance or a wedding ceremony? Who knows?
I know,
right?
and I'm not telling.
Telling a single soul.
Nope.
Okay, all right. Plenty to dive into, including we've got another piece of concept art here as well.
Yeah, something we talk about a lot, and like I think the last concept really like spoke to it is like especially when we're developing a new destination like this, like we really think about like what is a storied history that's happened here? What's something that players can like really sink their teeth into and dig deep into? And going into this concept, something that I love about it that's really resonant with me with a lot of the early creative discussions we had on it is that we wanted this place to feel like an exotic world that is just tailor-built around the joy of discovery, right? And then so within this new destination in Apollo, you're going to be discovering powerful abilities in order to uncover secrets in this location and in order to carve a path to the great mystery at the heart of the planet. And that's what like these concepts, when I look at them in retrospective as the team is now actively like building a bunch of this stuff, it's very evocative for me from that feeling of like, hey, how can, it's something Tyson and Alice and I talk a lot about is like, how can we get that like grand mystery in that game, that feeling that there's something right around the corner, that like it's kind of at the heart, has been at the heart of Destiny for a long time. And as we've been closing down the Light Dark saga, it's been an amazing roller coaster ride, but we want to expand and grow Destiny and we want to change it. And that's what I think these concepts are starting to speak for us, trying to show not just us telling of like some of that direction.
Yeah, I mean, it's exciting to see because I think one thing I've heard you guys talk about a lot as well is, just the inspirations that you want to obviously provide the players. You build these new worlds, but you guys have been diving into a lot of crazy subject matter just on your own to get inspired as well. Can you tell us a little bit about kind of some of the fun reading or listening you've been doing as you've been going through this?
Sure. One of the fun parts about being a creative is that you have to fill the tank with something. And
certainly.
So that means doing a lot of research, finding a lot of other targets in media, or even just like what music you're listening to while you're working on a script, right? I know for our team, something that really inspired us was music of the 1960s. We've listened to a lot of early prog, a lot of King Crimson, and a lot of, The Doors and Jefferson Airplane. We also, there's a lot of Slaughterhouse-Five inside of this.
Cheery.
We love to look for inspiration outside of just games because there's so much in the world that can fill that tank and get us inspired for what's coming next. And we also look to television, of course, too.
Yeah. I mean, TV and movies is like I talk about all the line. I mean, Allison as the narrative director, much better at referencing text. I'm a little bit more of a visual guy.
Is that the nice way to say that? 'Cause,
Yeah,
Okay, cool. All right, thank you.
Social media and TikTok have rotted us all.
They've just rotted me. Actually.
Yeah, but yeah, like when we talk about like all this inspirational media, one of the things.
One thing I will
that's
say
also
is
a sci-fi game that we talked a bunch about was for Apollo was Scavenger's Reign. That's something that Allison, remember in early concepting we were talking about.
With her at the helm.
Oh, wow, that media, that TV show is so great because like it's familiar in some ways, but as you get closer,
do like
you
that.
really look at their world, it's really strange and different and weird and mysterious, and it really kind of just builds this halo of allure around it that is something that really spoke to us when we're thinking about like how can we introduce something new to the game.
If they let her cook, she might.
All right, so there's obviously a lot of new inspirations. We had a chance to look at some concept art, but Allison, I got to put you on the spot just one last time. Do you have any other teasers for us or anything you can give us before we move on to the next
I got
subject?
a weird one.
Okay, even better.
Okay. So imagine going to a mansion, like a really nice, really big fancy house.
Okay,
and
not just in the tutorial to Tomb Raider.
No,
Okay, all right.
like a nice one.
Okay,
yeah,
thank
yeah,
you.
yeah.
Yeah,
So you're going in and looking at like a parlor room or something, and maybe the owner of the house tells you there's a secret door somewhere in here.
Yeah.
And you're looking around and you can see the door that you came through and you can see the window, but it kind of looks like a dead end, like there's nothing in here. And everyone knows that a good secret door comes from like behind a bookcase. Like you
Right.
go up to a bookcase and pull on a book or a little statue that's been in front of your face the whole time,
Yeah.
but you just haven't had the focus on it yet. And if you pull on that, it opens up the secret door, and suddenly what was a dead end looks like an entryway.
Yeah. So
And
the
that's
whole-
what this saga is.
Okay, that's very exciting. And it won't be like Young Frankenstein where I get stuck in the door or
You will not
anything.
get stuck in the door. No, I will not let anyone get
Not
stuck
even for
inside the
comedic
door.
Or Matthew McConaughey
Yeah.
behind the bookcase. Murph. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Thank you again, Allison, so much. There's
Absolutely.
obviously a lot of cool stuff to dive into, but we'll
We
let
are
you and
trying.
yours keep crafting. But we've got also one more subject as well. Robbie, I'd love to bug you about one more thing, if
Please.
that's all right.
Yeah.
So we've seen some feedback on reward tiers and how there might not be enough variation in loot for players to go ahead and get encouraged to go ahead and keep chasing down more gear. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you're all building right now and kind of what that means to you?
Yeah, so this is like very valid feedback, just acknowledging that in the first place, because the first thing we announced was just like, hey, there's some new tiers, right? And then obviously, yeah, you're gonna look at that and go like, well, I have a bunch of amazing armor and weapons now, so like,
Right.
why does this matter in the future? And so totally, yeah, that feedback makes a lot of sense to us. And so what's really top of mind and has been for us for a little while now is how we can make not only chasing gear within individual tiers interesting and the whole system interesting, but also how we can make those higher tiers of gear compelling to chase, right?
Yeah.
To have that mountain to climb. And so that comes in two forms that I can talk a little bit about today. One, I can go a little more in depth on, which is our next generation armor.
Yeah.
That's going to be coming with Codename Frontiers. And then we have some really early thinking for weapons.
Okay.
And so for armor, yeah, let's start there.
Yeah, yeah.
Is that okay, Andy?
That's perfect.
Yeah,
If you wouldn't mind, Robbie.
Yeah, I would be
Okay,
happy
thank
to.
you.
So yeah, let me lean in here to focus a little bit. So for next generation armor, we really want to make armor valuable again. We want to make it easier to understand, and we really want it to have create new build crafting identities.
Yeah.
That's something that's like really close to home for us right now because we've had.
Well, I
some
mean,
of this
listen,
for quite a while.
sunsetting.
And so part of making it valuable, easy to understand, new identities is one of the big pieces is going to be a large stat rework to the armor pieces themselves. And so there's going to be fewer stats.
Should have never been
on each
reverted.
individual piece of armor. So it makes it way easier to
So
put
everything they're doing
pieces
now-
of gear and be like, oh, this one's better than that one. I'm
hard.
going into a specific, discipline, strength, whatever,
Sure.
and you can better understand that. That also means that there's going to be fewer things we call dump stats.
Sure.
Like you looking at a piece of gear and going like, oh man, it only gives me +5 resilience. I don't really want that.
Trash it,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
And like, there's still going to be cases where it's like, oh, it has a lot of resilience, but that's not what I'm building into. But it's just going to be way easier to just glance at stuff.
Very cool.
And
Okay.
figure it out.
Yeah.
But beyond that, right? Like, how can we answer that question of how can next gen armor have this new build crafting identity?
Yeah.
It also we want to bring new things to the table.
Yeah.
Right. And so part of the stat rework, we're going to go beyond 100, Andy.
We go beyond
Beyond
sometimes.
100.
Yeah.
Beyond
Finally.
light. That's right.
Yep. Beyond dark with prismatic.
What
This
else
just makes
is there?
sense. Yeah.
Now we're gonna go beyond 100 with armor. Who knew? Like, who knew that's where we're going?
That was just hidden in a lore book somewhere, I'm sure, right, Allison?
Yeah,
right?
sure.
Right? Okay.
That's good. They'll finally make going above 100
Yeah,
worth it.
don't check our homework. Yeah. So when we go, so what I mean by going beyond 100. So let's talk about strength, for instance. And so this is some early thinking from the team.
Yeah.
It's got to be
So
like
the 1 to 100
max.
range, it would still reduce your melee cooldown like it does today. It would still have that, so that would still be really easy to understand. But then from that 101 to 200 range, beyond 100, every point into strength at that point would then give you a chance in order to activate a second melee when power melee becomes charged. So basically you get double melee. You get to double throw your shields or double throw your knives or throw whatever warlock, space magic stuff they throw in. I don't play warlocks.
I'm a hunter. I get it.
I can't jump, sorry.
Withering blades. That's it.
But really, like, the key thing to there, right, is like that starts to create an identity for what you want to build craft into that's very different than just like, oh, hey, yeah, I'm building in a melee, lower cooldown, that's cool. But now you can start build crafting into like, okay, I'm going to regularly, especially at the higher end, start to get double melee charges, right? And so the other thing we're considering right now is also renaming that stat from strength to melee so that it's just very specific when you look at the gear and kind of like know what it's
cut right to that chase, right?
Yeah. Another big thing that's coming with next generation armor to the game is set bonuses. And so this is something,
finally,
they're back.
So
we've done like some small versions of it in the past. Have been like individual releases, but we're looking at this as like a holistic new system that's coming with pretty much every piece of new legendary armor set that we create, starting with Frontiers.
Okay.
And so these set bonuses are going to come in the form of wearing 2 or 4 pieces of a 5-piece set. So that gives you flexibility in order to wear an exotic at any point, and then also allows you to mix and match different sets. So you can actually start looking at like gear and go like, oh, I have
that's big.
tier 1, tier 2 of one set, tier 3 of other, and I actually want to like mix match them together for different combinatorics for different build crafting identities. I'm getting like really deep into the weeds here, but the thing that's like really exciting about this is that like one of the perks the team is playing around with that these new set bonuses could give you could be one that's built all around like Tex Mechanica style play, which is like all about hip firing, right? And all about that yeehaw. And then like the more you build into that, you're going to be buffing your Tex Mechanica weapons. And so that's just like one example. But yeah, it's the whole space is just going to like really expand and just become a lot easier to manage in your head and also build complexity into. And so I'm super stoked for it.
No, you guys obviously have been doing a lot of great stuff. So we've touched on armor here briefly. All that sounds awesome, but can you tell us a little bit more about weapons and kind of, how they're going to evolve as well?
Yeah, so we're a little earlier on weapons right now. We wanted to talk about next gen armor because we have a lot of juicy, good plans coming together right now. But for weapons, the thing I can say is that like in the game today, we have higher tiers of weapons to chase, like adepts and raid weapons, right? And so those things with them come with exclusive perks that basically, cut above the noise of other weapons you might be earning in any individual release. And so we know from the tiering perspective of weapons themselves that like, hey, we already have this kind of touchstone for us that we see that works pretty well. And it's like, so it's really like, how can we meet or clear that bar, right? Like how can we create those exclusive chases at the top of that aspirational mountain for players to climb?
So actually, additionally too, we've heard some concerns that obviously we're going to maybe be over-indexing on just bringing back reprised weapons, and Guardians will just be out there chasing down something and re-earning something that's just sitting in the vault anyway. Can you tell us a little bit more about like kind of the weapon chase and what you guys are planning on doing with each subsequent release?
Yeah. So just to like make sure to clear the air here a little bit, right? Like every expansion, every season, every raid, every dungeon, there's going to be new weapons, right? We're not slowing down there in terms of like making a lot of compelling new weapon content.
Cool. Okay.
But the thing about reprisals and revisions that I think is true for a lot of Destiny players is like you have that favorite gun, right? You have that gun that you loved at one point in time, and over time it's just not as useful in the contemporary tuning, activity, sandbox, whatever, right? Like just something about it isn't as good over the years. And so like we did with the Brave Arsenal and Into the Light, like that's our touchstone for like, hey, how can we go in and update, fan favorite weapons, bring them back, breathe some new life into them, and make them interesting to use again. And I also think what's great about that is that people who never got to use their Recluse or Better Devils or something that we haven't reprised just yet, right? Is like, oh, that's their first time experience with it, and they've heard how cool it is.
To all the Guardians who are going to dive into Revenant and get to try Chroma Rush for the first time.
Oh, yeah.
I am trying that gun for the first time. It's so good. I'm glad it's coming back.
Chroma Rush is coming back.
That all sounds awesome. So everything that Robbie just spoke to, there's going to be a next-gen article, a next-gen armor article going up on Bungie.net after the stream wraps up. But Robbie, is there anything else you want to say?
Yeah, so something that I should probably touch on is like we're talking a lot about like all this cool gear and like, but like there's a question here, right? Like that.
Yeah, so they're going to take the season of armor thing and put it into everything else
about it. And so we've talked a little
Which I've said they should have done for a
about the
long
fact
time.
that there's going to be customizable difficulty coming in Destiny with Frontiers, and then also changes to modifiers and things like that with like the Banes that we announced in the recent blog post.
Yeah.
And so to making expansions deeply replayable, kind of like I was talking about earlier in our section, and then the customizable difficulty, and then the new modifier systems. Like these are all things that are being built into a structure so that you're going to need to chase that high tier gear. You're going to need to craft that complex set bonus, perfect combination of Tex Mechanica gear in order to take on some of the hardest challenges inside of the game. And so this isn't just about changing gear. This is also figuring out how we can bring new and interesting challenge to Destiny and how we can really like breathe life into the challenge of the game.
Very exciting. Awesome.
Yeah, should be fun.
Yeah. All right. Well, plenty more information on that to arrive on the blog that's going to be arriving on Bungie.net shortly after this. But I don't think I'm going to be able to top what Robbie just said. So we'll go ahead and get ready to go ahead and close out the stream here today by first thanking all of you fine folks at home for joining us today. We love getting a chance to put these streams on and hang out with all of you in the community, and it doesn't mean anything unless you show up. So thank you for taking the time to join us today. As a reminder as well, there's a Twitch shop going on right now. As a heads up, you can probably see it pinned in chat, but just to remind everyone at home that if you've earned the Twitch drop, I should say, rather, it will be arriving on your Guardian when Revenant launches on October 8th. So if you don't get it today, worry not. That's by design. It'll be arriving on October 8th, and you'll get to put your shiny new emblem on. And of course, a huge thanks to our guests here, Robbie and Allison. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Andy.
Absolutely. And then the folks from our first segment as well, Chris, Clayton, and Jerome as well, Incredible. Thank you so much for taking them to join us. And of course, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention the amazing folks doing the actual heavy lifting behind the scenes, Peyton, Ashley, and Justin. Thank you so much. Of course, Ashley, one of the folks that helped design a lot of the stuff we looked at today. So thank you all for taking the time to joining us from the throne world, as we call it here, back here in the studio. But yeah, a quick recap. We talked today a little bit about what's to arrive with Act 1 of Revenant, arriving just next week, next reset. It'll be arriving on October 8th. Make sure to go ahead and sign up for the Twitch Rivals Dungeon Race. It'll be shipping out on October 11th. And remember, if you're one of those top 3 teams to go ahead and make your way through, then you'll be able to get the cool embroidered hoodie as well. But there's going to be more information about that arriving on our socials. And then I think that's about it. I think I've concluded my notes here on my laptop. So again, thank you all for taking the time to join us. Make sure and follow us at Destiny the Game across the board on whatever social channel you like. Make sure and check out our Discord as well. We're making some updates out there in terms of the announcement channels. And keep an eye out for the TWID for all this great information. And lastly, but very not least, make sure and head out to Bungie.net after this stream concludes. Read that Next Gen Armor article. We're giving you guys lots of information. Is it fair? No, but we like you, so we're going to keep doing it anyway. So in the meantime, take care of yourselves. Take care of each other, and we'll see you all Starside.
You know, I will say, if you can just like do that one thing, but do it really, really good. I guess since they use melees, it'll be interesting. You know. Well, that's what I'm saying. You have to unfortunately figure out a way to appease the majority of the community, though, or I guess the most of the community you can, because no matter what, people are gonna hate it. One more other than Titan, Warlock, and Hunter. I mean, I thought by now they would have pushed into being able to have playable characters that were like Fallen or Cabal. But like, if there was ever a time for them to make that change and let you have like new new characters to play as, it would be now. But I don't think they want to go that way because of how much Destiny is intertwined into the whole Guardian thing. I don't know. Let's see. Welcome to one of the many developer insights for Codename Frontiers. Check back with our Paving the Way for New Frontiers articles for more information on our plans. The deep dive is on our future plans for armor, Compared to weapons, armor has been a relatively unexciting reward for a few years now. In the year ahead, we'll be introducing new properties to armor and changing how stats work to make it easier to change armor around. TLDR, armor will be a more active, interesting part of build crafting. Stats will be reworked to be more impactful, less confusing, and less constraining. See, I look at that and they said that, and I wondered if that meant that like every one stat would matter instead of every 10. I've always felt that like every 1 point in a stat should matter. Having like wasted or empty stats has always been kind of confusing. Even if it's like not linear, it should definitely be like able to do something. I don't know. Set bonuses will be introduced to give additional armor sets more unique identities and build crafting elements. The problem. In the year since the last major update, Shadowkeep's Armor 2.0. Man, has it been since Shadowkeep? Armor has settled into a relatively static part of the reward story. Once you have the right stat rolls, there is very little else to look forward to. And the intricate balance of stat values has a lock-in effect that makes it hard to want to swap anything out anyway. For armor to be exciting again, it needs some unique properties, and stats need to be easier to manage without so much need for fine-tuning. The solution: rework stat mechanics. Stats on armor will be changing in Frontiers in order to make them more player-friendly. The first major change is the mechanics of the stats themselves. Stats effects will no longer be tiered every 10 points. Every point in a stat will provide a benefit. This change is intended to reduce the lock-in effect that happens when a fine-tuned combination of stat values makes it feel impossible to switch out any single armor piece. Finally. I know I was just talking about this, but I'm glad they actually say it in person, in writing. Stat effects will be capped at 200, with the range from 1 to 200 providing an additional powerful effect, building on the base effect. This change is intended to support deeper investment in a smaller number of stats and spikier stats distributions on armor with fewer secondary dump stats. So going after armor now that has like 40 intellect and 40 strength is going to be worth it. So you can get to like 120, 140, 180. Now, if they said that that extra 101 to 200 just means an additional chance, what'll probably happen is that people will figure out like how much you want to go into until it like doesn't matter anymore. Like say for example, 150 means every 5 grenades you get a free one. But every 180, every 6. They might just make it to where like, well, whatever. You don't need to go to 180 when 150 gives you, for 5 versus 6. Mobility. They're going to make something mobility really good. But then again, they did it seems that they're not going to let all of them have some silly effect. So I guess at 100, the cooldown is like capped at 100. And then after that is just where the additional effect happens. I'll run a sparrow. Listen, you've seen the first Ascendants. Let me run around like Bunny. Sure. That'll be interesting for PvP, I'll tell you that. In addition to above changes, the distribution of stats on armor will be changing. Legendary armor will have a stat archetype which determines the primary and secondary stats, with a third stat being a free roll. These values of these stats should be overall spikier, leading to fewer points in dump stats. The class slot, Hunter, Cloaks, Warlock, Bombs, Titan Marks, will have full stat distribution on par with other slots. So they're going back to this slot having stats and not just being a free 12. I don't mind that. What I do mind is now that means that you have to hold a bunch of armor in the class item slot again. Yeah, I guess you would have to worry about exact class items. Yeah. So we have Brawler. You have the set bonuses. Brawler armor archetypes have extreme melee and close range capabilities. So you have 30 strength, 20 discipline, 10 intellect. So if I scroll up, you can see right here you have the 200 strength and the 60 intellect and then the 150 discipline. And then you have this. So it shows you I guess it shows you the three stats, yeah. So I guess armor no longer comes with like 6 stats, just gets to 3. The result will be a similar number of unique stats on any piece of armor, with larger contributions to these stats, and every stat point providing a benefit. These changes should ultimately make every piece of armor more interesting and easier to evaluate. Some stats will be changing with 3 goals in mind. 1, improve specific weak stats that offer little value. Reduce or eliminate mandatory must-have stats. Overall, improve understandability of stats and their effects. These changes are still under active development, but here are a few examples from work-in-progress designs, which will eventually include most or all of the current stats found in armor. From 1 to 100 provides increasing grenade cooldown reduction. From 101 to 200 provides an increasing chance to gain a bonus grenade charge whenever your grenade becomes available. So you could toss it, and then once it fills up, it'll sometimes give you 2 charges. Now, will that mean I don't get a new grenade until I've used up both charges? Or can I, in theory, toss 1 and then maybe somehow kind of keep myself having 2? I don't know. Stat renamed to grenade to improve reability. So instead of discipline, it's going to be called grenade. From 1 to 100 provides increasing melee cooldown. From 101 to 200 provides an increasing chance to gain a bonus melee charge whenever your powered melee becomes available. Then stat renamed to melee to improve reability. Now my other question is, what if you're running something like Claws of Ahamkara? That already gives you 2 charges. So it's going to let you get 3? Yeah. Now if you can't get 3, if you can get 3, that's pretty cool. If you can't get 3 still, let me deeply dive into it. So, let me have 4 and 5 charges. So, special ammo from 1 to 100 increases rate at which special ammo bricks drop from final blows. From 101 to 200 provides an increasing chance that a double-sized brick will drop. What is this 1 to 100? This is sat down. Yeah, I hope. Set bonuses. The second major change to armor is the introduction of set bonuses. Think of them like an origin trait for armor. They'll represent the theme of the armor and allow you to reflect the fantasy in a way your build plays. Set bonuses are perks granted when you equip 2 or 4 pieces of armor from the same set. This allows you to either commit to 2 bonuses from the same set or find combinations that fit your unique needs. We're keeping both approaches in mind as they take shape and are excited to see what each Guardian chooses to do with these new tools. Note that there is no bonus at 5 pieces because most builds are expected to include an exotic piece. Now they should have a 5 set piece, but make it be a weapon. I'm just saying. Wukong did it. Make it be a 4 piece and a weapon. As you'll see, perks will consist of either existing mods or will be newly designed. We've included a few examples below that represent general direction we'd like to go. While shooting from the hip, you have increased movement speed and weapon handling. Effects increases when your score hits. Text Mechanica weapons have increased range and accuracy when hip fired. Non-stop aggression. Final blows with freshly reloaded weapons heal you. Damaging a target with a shotgun or fusion rifle increases the damage it takes from those weapons for a short time. Demolitions Expert. Direct hits with explosive weapons temporarily increases their reload speed. Repeated direct hits with explosive weapons temporarily increases grenade ability damage. It's kind of cool. Vanguard Operative. Activating your grenade gives you and nearby allies damage resistance against combatants. Defeating champions with a finisher generates special ammo for you and your fire team. Free Aeons? Is that what this is for a 4-piece set? Imagine running this whole set with Aeons. Just a prismatic hunter with Aeons, just tossing a Dustfield nade down, finishing a champion. Or during DPS, you just toss a 2-set piece, just toss a Dustfield nade for the Frost Armor. These two are pretty cool. This one, these two I don't really care for, but these two are pretty solid. So, weapons on my old armor. Old legendary armor will be changed as little as possible, but because the change of stat mechanics and types are global changes, old armor pieces will have their stat types changed around. When possible, these changes will be to the most similar stat, but with some stats being fundamentally reworked, this won't be always possible. Okay. What about exotic armor? Updating the exotic armor pursuits is on our roadmap, but won't be part of the initial update that is focusing on legendary armor. So to make sure that exotics and their build defining perks remain a compelling option, we are working out a design that will allow players to update their exotic armor to bring their stat bonuses in line with the changes to legendary armor. So you don't gotta worry about that. The exotic class items introduced in the final shape are a special case. Even though legendary items will be gaining full random stats, with this update, we don't wish to add additional randomness to the exotic class item chase. Instead, we will be providing a method for players to update their exotic class items with additional stats of their choosing to bring them in line with stat contribution of the new legendary class items. More details on this in the future. My vault is full. Where am I supposed to store all these new armor? We know that the vault pressure is a real problem for many players, even with recent increases in vault space. Outside of adding more space and option, real solutions that enable long-term storage of more desirable roles are really hard problems. But those are problems we are penciling into our roadmap at or around next year's second expansion, Behemoth. We'll share more details when we have a clear direction for how we can solve them. So that answers a fair amount of them, you know. One thing I think people don't understand about set bonuses, generally, and I'm only going to talk about it in the sense of like other games. Set bonuses in most games can either be game breaking or supplemental. They can either be the best, you gotta run them because they are just that darn good, or they can be pretty good in very small situations. It definitely seems that they want to take it in the latter direction, because like kind of have to, because like in games like I was gonna say like in Division 2 and really in Division 1, and in Diablo, and in Black Myth Wukong, certain set bonuses are broken. And as fun as that is, there's no reason running anything else. Because that one set bonus, like there was a one set bonus that gave you like an additional 50% critical hit chance in Division. No, what was the other one? Division had that one set bonus that was every time you landed a bullet on a target, any target, you got a 1% critical hit damage increase until you missed. You hit one, it went up 1, you got a 1% increase. You missed one, it drops. Up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. That went all the way up to 100%. And that was absolutely broken because you had to run it because it was just that good. Every other armor didn't matter for Legendary Incursions and Dark Zone, because as long as you had Striker and put on an SMG or something that just had a high magazine, you were going to reach that threshold of 100 and get like an extra 100%, like I think it was exponential stacking, but it was something like massive, just all the way up. And it either drop that down over time or just on misses. There was also the Predator one where every 10 bullets you hit on a target would apply bleed. And the bleed would be like based off of your base weapon damage multiplied by your, I think, critical hit chance or something silly like that. If we weren't already really strong as like players, I think that would be the direction they would need to go, having set bonuses be really strong. But I don't think they need to do that. Then we'd be way too strong. Way too strong.